At the temple of Pashuputinath, Hindu pilgrims send their dead to the spiritual world. The people of Nepal recall the day not so long ago when 9 members of their royal family were dispatched from here. Now, the survivors of that regal dynasty have melted away. Long lived the royals. They've been absolute rulers here for most of the last 240 years. But what's happened in Nepal in the last few months has been a revolution in every sense of the word. Banished as the world's only Hindu monarch, driven from the palace by his own subjects. The Nepalese were fed up with the king who saw himself as a god.
There is not any sympathy among the masses to the monarchy.
Now the Nepalese are under the spell of a new leader who compares himself with some of history's most notorious megalomaniacs. He's a man whose message seems irresistible, even though he's responsible for the deaths of thousands of his own people.
We could be heading for a lot of trouble. We could even be heading for a civil war. I don't know.
The breathtaking beauty of the Annapurna Range masks a shocking event that was largely unreported in the outside world. The people here had lived in peace for generations. And yet one night in early 2004, they turned on each other with incredible brutality.
It was a human wave attack, which is a strategy they had perfected. You go in with lots of villagers shouting slogans and, with flaming torches, actually out in the open, just to put psychological pressure on the defenders.
The village of Beni had been surrounded by 5,000 men and women ragtag fighters. Like every other operation, the attack was to be filmed for propaganda purposes. They were followers of the doctrine of Chinese revolutionary Chairman Mao. Their quest was a communist takeover of Nepal. Over the next 10 hours, police posts and government buildings were attacked and dozens of officials murdered.
The fighting went on all night. So the idea was to attack, paralyze the government machinery, give a very big blow to the morale of the security forces guarding the district headquarters, and then move out.
The Maoist tactics were employed in dozens of attacks across Nepal in a 10-year insurgency. Today, the police station at Beni has been rebuilt. The town bears few scars, although the people still suffer.
This is the district office.
Krishna Lal Shrestha was a caretaker on that night when mortars rained from the sky.
अनि चाहिँ गेटबाट चाहिँ एउटा खुट्टा चाहिँ भित्र एउटा खुट्टा बाहिर हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ पिठोमा चाहिँ यहाँ गोली लाग्यो गोली लागेपछि म ढलेपछि अनि खुट्टामा बम लाग्यो ए अलि मन खिन्न हुन्छ के गर्ने अब चाहिँ जे हुने भइहाल्यो.
The Maoist insurgency was to change Nepal forever. It was to be the beginning of the end of the monarchy. King Gyanendra suspended parliament and wound back democratic reforms. He had now turned other moderate Nepalese people against him.
It's a shelter for around 20 girls. Right now we have around 17, and most of the kids are from difficult backgrounds.
In one of the poorest and least developed nations on earth, Pramada Shaha takes me to a children's shelter run by her welfare agency.
Either they've been displaced by the conflict, or they've lost parents, or some of them have been abused themselves, or they're victims of domestic violence. So They come from different backgrounds, and some of them are just pure and simple needy.
And there's something else she's known for. Pramada Shaha is a member of the former royal family, having married King Gyanendra's nephew.
Whenever I thought of sovereignty, I thought of the monarchy, and the people, I think, did look at them as a foundation of security for Nepal being Nepal. Now at this point, I'm not even sure we are going to be Nepal.
The Maoists were intent on destroying the monarchy, but the family were doing a good job of that themselves. Gyanendra had only come to power after his brother the king was shot dead, along with 8 other royals, on one night in 2001. The gunman was the king's own son, a drunken Crown Prince Dipendra, upset because he couldn't marry the woman he loved. Dipendra turned the weapon on himself and died 2 days later.
I mean, he had threatened to do this, and when he actually did it, then we realized, my God, maybe we should have taken him seriously, but no one takes such threats seriously, I guess.
In the countryside, the Maoist insurgency was taking hold. Children were taken away to re-education camps, their headmasters murdered. Anyone who didn't think the same way as the Maoists was executed. Behind them was a shadowy and enigmatic figure, so mysterious, rumours suggested he didn't actually exist. But he was real, and he called himself Prachanda, meaning the fierce one. He never actually fought himself. It turned out that the man calling every shot of Nepal's class war was a snappy-dressing middle-class teacher and father of 3. Well, it's 2008. Do you think what the world really needs now is another communist country?
Right now, we are not fighting for socialism or communism, as some people think like that. Just we are fighting against feudalism to establish a democratic republic.
But 13,000 of your own countrymen and women have died. That's some price to pay, isn't it?
These 30,000 people, although we are very sorry for that, but we feel that in comparison with the history, to fight against the feudalism, it is not a high price,
Well, we decided to morph Prachanda into Stalin because of his statements in which he said that the media should be controlled, and he threatened one particular newspaper for being critical of the party.
Kunda Dixit is a publisher and outspoken commentator, and someone who isn't about to be intimidated. I don't think Stalin liked to be made fun of. Do you think Prachanda does?
No, Prachanda is okay, actually. He seems to have a sense of humor. He's probably one of the few Maoists in the Politburo who actually laughs. But he's also a guy who told us in an interview, if you're going to eliminate anyone, don't torture them. Just put a gun on his temple and shoot them.
After laying down their arms, the Maoists won more seats than anyone in April's elections. Now the revolutionary has come in from the cold, and in a truly extraordinary turn of events, Prachanda, the fierce one, finds himself the first Prime Minister of the Republic of Nepal. The Maoists wasted no time eliminating the biggest enemy of all, the symbol of everything they despised. The king had his marching orders. Well, how do you think the king is feeling right now?
He may have some sorts of self-critical feeling. I think so. The monarchy was the symbol of feudalism and autocracy, and we wanted to have a democratic republic to empower the masses of people. There are so many kinds of oppression was there.
So what they couldn't achieve with a very bloody war, they achieved in a very short time, relatively non-violently, to overthrow and sideline the king. a lot of anti-Maoists also voted for the Maoists, was the fact that, okay, if we send them to government, maybe they won't go back to the jungle.
Kathmandu's royal palace remains heavily guarded, but its king slipped away in the middle of the night. This is Gyanendra's new home, a hunting lodge in the foothills of the city. Officials held an open house just before his former Royal Highness moved in. They wanted to flaunt the modesty of his new abode. On the day we called, it was Gyanendra's birthday, and a steady stream of loyalists turned up at the gates to leave their wishes. But the last king of Nepal has not been seen in public since he lost his job.
He's relaxed. He's not doing anything covert, or he's not starting an underground movement as people would like to think. So he seems to be relaxed and watching the situation and just staying back. What else can he do?
Physically, mentally, economically,
Her family no longer royal, Pramada Shaha is learning to live with new realities. In her job running a welfare agency, she encounters the new Maoist women's minister. The foothills of the Chitwan region in the south of the country seem as far as you can get from the Maoist makeover in Kathmandu. The farmers here gave up sons and daughters to fight in the revolution. Prachanda's People's Liberation Army is still in their midst. We drove deep into remote country to visit one of dozens of remaining camps. Weapons have been confiscated by the UN, but this is still a military force by any other measure. Maoist leaders might have relinquished their armed struggle for suits in Parliament, but it's a message that apparently hasn't got through to these foot soldiers. On the sidelines, 22-year-old Ranjana, a fighter since she was 17, a young woman convinced there's still a war to fight.
मेरो क्षमताले भ्याएसम्म मैले त्यति गर्न पर्छ भनेर म यसरी अहिलेसम्म लागेको छु अब अझै पनि लाग्ने प्रतिबद्धता गरेको छु जबसम्म मेरो स्वास्थ्य स्थितिले साथ दिन्छ त्यसैसम्म सैन्य फान्डमा गर्ने त्यसपछि पनि सक्दिन भने जुन ठाउँबाट भए पनि म देश र दुनियाकै निम्ति गरेर मर्छु भन्ने कुरा मैले एकदम आत्मविश्वास आफूमा जागेको छु.
The Maoist leadership has pledged to disband these camps and rehabilitate the people. But for now, they're here in case Prachanda needs them again. This is a nation of two armies, these Maoist fighters and the Nepalese regular army they battled for 10 years.
The Maoists are finding it more difficult than we thought to make that transition from being a violent guerrilla force that killed anyone that didn't agree with them to being a legitimate political party that believes in non-violence and pluralism and tolerates dissent.
They inherit a Nepal ravaged by conflict. The insurgency kept many tourists away. They're the biggest source of foreign income here. Prachanda has pledged to bring the visitors back, dispense with the ideology and face a few 21st century practicalities about running a country.
We have empowered all those oppressed people. Right now we are in the position that we can mobilize the masses of people to rebuild this country.
So is it fair to say the tiger has changed its stripes?
Yeah, you can say like that, yeah.
After 2.5 centuries, the survivors of the ruling Shaha dynasty have passed on into a life of civilian obscurity. their demise was as much their own making as the onslaught of Maoists who won influence first by the gun, then by the ballot box. From this kingdom in the clouds comes the world's newest republic.